Hey everybody, this is Nigel, your favorite realtor with Coldwell Banker American Homes, and let's talk about something that almost nobody warns you about before you buy a house, and that is home upgrades that people regret after moving in. Because once you get the keys, there's that rush of excitement that you get that you finally own the place. You start imagining renovations, upgrades, Pinterest boards, all that stuff, and then all of a sudden things start to get real. So I've had this same conversation over and over and over again with homeowners who spent so much money on upgrades that they thought they wanted, only to realize months later that they would absolutely do it differently if they could. So today I'm going to be breaking down the most common home upgrades that people regret, why they regret them, and what to think before you start writing out those checks for these, different things. So regret number one is over customizing too quickly. This is a very big one. Right after moving in, people rush, to make the home their own, right? The custom finishes, the bold design choices, the unique layouts, all this stuff done fast, right? And the regret comes when they realize that they didn't actually live in the space long enough to understand how it functions day to day. That wall that you knocked down, it turns out it helped with sound control. That built-in shelving, now it limits furniture options. And the lesson here is really gonna be to take your time, live in the house for a little bit before making those major structural or layout changes. What looks good one day doesn't always feel good in the next few months. Regret number two is luxury finishes where it doesn't matter. This one really hurts financially, because people spend big money on high-end finishes in places that don't really add value to the life or resale. Things like extremely expensive tile finishes in secondary bathrooms, designer fixtures in places you don't spend a lot of time in, top-tier materials where mid-range materials would have been just fine. The regret isn't that the upgrade looks bad, it's that the cost did not match the benefit. And a lot of people, homeowners, they say, I wish, I put that money somewhere a little bit more relevant, right? Which brings us to the next one, which is going to be regret number three, which is ignoring functional upgrades. This is probably the most common one that I see of all of them. A lot of people focus on these cosmetic upgrades, countertops, cabinets, flooring, but they skip things like electrical upgrades, plumbing updates, storage solutions, insulation, energy efficiency, those types of things. These aren't exciting upgrades, but they dramatically really impact the comfort and the long-term costs that you're going to be spending in the home. So many homeowners later say, they wish they had addressed the invisible stuff first, because once the cosmetic money is gone, those functional projects, they just hit much more heavier financially. Number four is open concept everything. Open floor plans are the thing, but they're not always practical. People remove walls to create one giant space only to realize now the sound travels everywhere. Heating and cooling become less efficient. There's less privacy. There's less space for furniture, right? I'm a big traditional person. I like formal dining rooms and stuff like that. What seemed modern and airy at first can start feeling chaotic or uncomfortable, especially as daily routines start to settle in. So open layouts can be great, but too open is where regret starts to creep in. Okay. Number five is going to be skipping outdoor planning. So this one surprises people a lot, right? A lot of people who own homes spend heavily on the inside, but then they just completely forget about the outside part. And, then later comes and they realize, landscaping is not cheap, right? Draining issues are very expensive. Patios, outdoor setups, these things require real planning, right? And they do play a role in your life. It plays a much more significant role in your life for many people than they realize. So many people really wish they had allocated some sort of a budget up front instead of treating the exterior as some sort of an afterthought. I myself am someone who is guilty of this. Number six is going to be renovating for trends and not for a lifestyle. So the thing is with homes, trends change all the time. What's in today can feel dated in a few years. Myself, I still love wooden cabinetry. I love black cabinets. And that's a thing from the past, right? But I still love that look, even though that's not what's in right now, And so the regret for a lot of people is, it looked great online, but it doesn't really work for me, right? And lifestyle should always come, before chasing the trends. Okay? Number 7 is going to be doing everything at once. So this one creates a lot of burnout for people, right? Because some homeowners are very ambitious. They want to do that. I'm going to do the kitchen. I'm going to do the bathroom. I'm going to do floors. I'm going to do the paint. I'm going to do lighting. They want to do everything all at the same time. And, the regret isn't just financial. It's something that's emotional. So living through constant construction, dust, noise, decisions, this can really drain the excitement out of home ownership fast, right? Many people wish they took their time with these projects over time instead of turning the first year into just drills and dust and renovation every 2 seconds. So what's the solution, right? This is where the happiest homeowners usually live, right? They live in the home first. They prioritize function over flashiness. They upgrade based on their actual habits, and they phase projects in intentionally, and they spend where it improves daily life. The best upgrades are not always the most expensive ones. They're the ones that make your home easier, more comfortable, more enjoyable to live in. So at the end of the day, the most upgrade regrets don't come from bad taste. They come from rushing decisions before truly understanding the home, right? So the house is going to reveal itself over time. And so the best thing that you can do for yourself is to, slow down, observe how you actually use the space, and upgrade with intention as opposed to upgrading with impulse. And your future self and your bank account will thank you tremendously. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe. Drop a comment down below if you have any questions whatsoever. And if you're from New York and you would like to work with me as your realtor, feel free to contact me in the description with the information down below. Take care.